It was a Friday night in October 1984 when the city of Dallas was alive with laughter, music, and the pulse of college life. Angela Samota, a 20-year-old computer science student at Southern Methodist University, had every reason to smile. She was bright, ambitious, and full of life. The kind of person whose energy seemed to light up every room she entered. That night, she and two friends decided to go out to a local club, a quick break from exams and the grind of university life. She wore her favorite dress, her hair perfectly curled, her smile wide and genuine. None of them could have imagined that it would be the last time anyone saw Angela alive.
True Cold File.
After midnight, Angela offered to drive her friends home. Her last stop was her boyfriend's apartment. A brief visit, a quick goodnight. Then she returned to her small off-campus home, the lights of the city flickering in her rearview mirror. Around 1:45 a.m., her boyfriend received a call. Angela's voice was nervous, shaken. She said a man was in her apartment, a stranger who had asked to use her phone and bathroom. Before he could respond, the line went dead. When the police arrived hours later, what they found inside her apartment would haunt them for decades. Angela had been raped and brutally murdered. Her body was discovered in her bed, her hands and clothes soaked in blood. There were signs of a violent struggle, but no sign of forced entry. Her apartment was locked from the inside. Whoever had done this had been let in, or had known how to make it seem that way. The murder of Angela Samota shocked the Dallas community. She was young, kind, and full of promise, the very image of innocence destroyed. Detectives worked quickly, interviewing everyone close to her. Boyfriends, classmates, co-workers, all became subjects of scrutiny. The boyfriend who received her last call was questioned for hours, his grief mistaken for guilt. But the evidence didn't fit. There were no fingerprints, no murder weapon, and the technology of 1984 couldn't make sense of the little forensic evidence they had. Her death became a whisper across the university, a warning about the dangers of trust and the fragility of safety. Weeks turned into months, and then years. The case went cold. Files gathered dust in metal drawers. Detectives retired. Leads faded. But there was one person who refused to move on, Angela's best friend, Sheila Wysocki. The two had shared everything, laughter, late-night talks, and dreams of their futures. Sheila couldn't accept that Angela's story would end with silence. Every few years, she'd call the police, hoping for an update, only to hear the same words, "We're still working on it." But she knew they weren't. Sheila's life moved forward, marriage, children, new responsibilities, but Angela's voice never stopped echoing in her mind. Then one night, decades after the murder, Sheila had a dream. Angela was there, standing in the same white dress she wore the night she died. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. The next morning, Sheila picked up the phone and called the Dallas Police Department again. This time, not as a grieving friend, but as a woman determined to bring justice. For years, Angela's case was like a shadow lingering in the halls of the Dallas Police Department. Detectives came and went, files shifted between desks, and every lead led to silence. Her name appeared on lists of unsolved murders, another young woman taken too soon, another mystery that time seemed determined to bury. But the evidence never truly slept. In a sealed box marked Samota A, the samples collected that night, blood, clothing, and a preserved sexual assault kit remained untouched, locked away from decay and neglect. It was as if fate itself was holding on, waiting for the day when science could speak for Angela. Through the late 1980s and 1990s, Sheila kept pressing. She called detectives, wrote letters, and even visited the department in person, asking questions few wanted to answer. Some told her, kindly but firmly, that there was nothing left to do. DNA technology wasn't advanced enough. The samples were too old. We'll let you know if something changes. And it sounded like a goodbye. But Sheila didn't stop. She joined advocacy groups, read about new forensic methods, and when DNA profiling became widely used in the early 2000s, she called again, this time with renewed fire in her voice. She told them, "You have her samples. You have what you need." In 2006, 22 years after the murder, a cold case detective named Linda Crum decided to reopen the file. She sent the evidence to the lab for testing. Weeks passed, then months, until one afternoon, a phone call shattered the long silence. The DNA from Angela's case had produced a match in the national database. It belonged to a man already behind bars, Donald Andrew Bess. Bess had been serving a life sentence for another violent assault. The match was undeniable, a 1 in a trillion probability of error. The system had finally caught up with him, decades too late, but in time to give Angela her voice back. When Sheila heard the news, she wept, not the kind of cry born from relief, but from exhaustion, the release of 20 years spent chasing a ghost. Time had preserved the truth, and for the first time since 1984, she could finally say Angela's name and know that the world was listening. In 2010, nearly 26 years after Angela Samota's murder, the courtroom in Dallas was silent. The air felt heavy, thick with decades of unanswered questions and grief. On one side sat Sheila Wysocki, no longer the frightened college roommate, but a woman transformed by years of determination. On the other sat Donald Andrew Bess, gray, expressionless, his life of violence now fully illuminated under the harsh lights of justice. When the prosecution laid out the evidence, the story unfolded piece by piece. The preserved samples, the exact DNA match, the record of assaults that stretched across years. Bess had been a predator hiding in plain sight, walking free while Angela's friends and family endured sleepless nights haunted by what-ifs. The jury didn't take long. They found him guilty of capital murder. For the brutality of his crime, for the innocence he destroyed, Bess was sentenced to death. He would spend the rest of his days awaiting an execution date, a small, imperfect measure of justice for what he'd done. When the verdict was read, Sheila closed her eyes. She wasn't celebrating, she was remembering. Angela's laugh, her kindness, her energy, all frozen in time, yet alive in every heartbeat of the people who never forgot her. Justice in this case wasn't just a legal outcome, it was the culmination of love that refused to fade, a friendship that outlasted fear. In interviews years later, Sheila said something that captured the essence of what true justice really means. Angela didn't die in vain. She started a ripple that never stopped. And that ripple carried forward, inspiring cold case detectives, forensic scientists, and survivors to believe that no matter how much time passes, truth doesn't disappear. It waits, patient and silent, for the right moment to be found. Angela Samota's story is more than a solved murder. It's a testament to the power of perseverance, of science, and of one woman's promise that her friend would never be forgotten. Sometimes justice takes years, sometimes it takes a lifetime, but in the end, it always leaves an echo.
If you're captivated by stories where the truth finally comes to light, make sure to subscribe to True Cold Files. Every week, we uncover real cases where justice took decades but never disappeared.